The Chiang Mai SEO Conference is the most renowned event in the industry. It sold out over 1,000 tickets in just 23 hours this year, which is especially impressive when you consider it's in a fairly random city in the middle of Southeast Asia. 2023 was the first time I wasn't speaking at the conference, so it meant I got to sit back in the crowd, soak up some knowledge bombs, and drink far more than I ever should have, if you can hear by the state of my voice right now. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you a rundown of what went down, what the speakers had to say, and everything else that happened at this year's CMSEO. The format for this year's event was slightly more organised than it has been in previous years, and we started off with the conference workshops, which were at the main venue for the event. You would go in, pre-register for your badge, and then choose between one of two talks that was happening on Monday and Tuesday. So those two talks each day, but they would happen at the same time, and you would have to choose between which one you would want to go to. For example, on Monday, you'd have to choose between Kazra Dash's talk on website recovery or between Julie Adams' talk on website content. So both talks obviously had their own criteria and credibility. I ended up going to see Kazra's talk because he's my friend and I thought I'd support him. It was great. Everyone really enjoyed it until the fire alarm went off at the end, which literally meant that Kazra had set the building on fire. Then we had the workshop and masterminds on Wednesday, which ended up being either you were invited to the mastermind, which was an invite-only session by Matt Diggity, or you paid $100 to go to Kyle Roof's workshop with a special guest of Corey Turkberg Gerber, Mr. Topical Authority himself. Then we had the conferences on day 1 and 2 with an after party hosted by Hrefs on day 2 on Friday. However, they still did not give us a free bar, despite rinsing us for credits this year. And then we had various surrounding community events throughout the week, from a motorbike ride event to a cannabis event to Muay Thai fighting to all sorts of stuff that was happening. There was sports events, there was esports events, there was everything for everybody. There was even a women in SEO meetup, which I thought was amazing. And of course, the first person who actually was presenting on stage at the conference on Thursday was Diggity himself. The king made a comeback after a 4-year hiatus off stage. The conference had finally made a return. The presentation wasn't exactly that much actionable stuff. There wasn't a ton of case studies or things like that. It was more a presentation filled with nostalgia of how the conference had come to be, how all of us had ended up being there, and Diggity himself had been able to generate tens of millions of dollars from this industry in personal wealth, and most of that was as a result of the people that were in that room with us. So like I said, there wasn't a ton of actionable stuff, but it was a great and awesome way to open the conference that really set the stage for everything that was about to come. The first person to really bite their teeth into the SEO was the first actual presenter on stage, and that was Kyle Roof. Kyle is the king of SEO testing. Everybody knows he is the top SEO nerd, and he really delivered with one of the most impressive talks I've ever seen in person. You can tell that Kyle has spoken at hundreds of conferences by now because his talking game and his audience engagement levels are off the charts. He was by far the most engagement-based talk that I've seen throughout the conference periods that I've been to in this industry. So starting off, Kyle is famous originally for his lorem ipsum ranking experiments, and he is back and doing it again, proving that it is still ranking in 2023, and he was ranking for some pretty interesting local and national based queries, and he'd been ranking for months and months at a time despite the recent Google algorithm updates. Then he moved on to his multiple experiments that were essentially disproving Search Engine Journal's recent ranking signals research paper, essentially saying that they didn't really do any testing or research and that it was basically all based on opinion of their SEO team, and that he literally did testing to disprove and prove the opposite of what their research was saying. I thought it was amazing. Then he talked about there being specific ranking zones on the page and that Google is going to give preferential treatment the higher you put up content within the code, and that he showed that there was various methods to actually hide and cloak content within the code, even some tags that people thought that Google didn't even read. Google are reading them. And then finally, he talked about basically not overcomplicating your SEO and that it's just an algorithm. You should always keep it based on maths and science-based approach, and that all this artistry is more kept for the higher levels of enterprise level SEO, where you can get away with a lot of things and you have this authority and this budget to play with, where most of this sites and most of the people in SEO need to be focusing more on this mathematical and scientific-based, also simple-based approach. The next talk was by Robert Niechal, who is one of the most high-level Polish SEOs out there. He is one of the earliest adopters of AI and has been using various large language models to dominate SERPs in different languages with large level spamming and content generation for years at this stage. His presentation was very interesting. Now, Robert is not a native English speaker and he was quite nervous about speaking in English during this presentation. However, he delivered one of the highest level AI presentations I have ever seen. He talked essentially about how AI is the future. We need to all be staying up to date with the latest AI technology, and especially the AI technology that's going to affect your business. So if your business is in video, in image, in content, in SEO, in links, in all of this kind of stuff, there's going to be various AI tools and advancements that are going to be very relative to your business, and that you're going to be wanting to stay on top of them as much as you can so that your game and your business is the highest level possible, especially in comparison to competitors who could potentially have an advantage over you if they implement these technologies far faster and more effectively than you are. Then he started talking about how we can start embedding models to create stylized and templated content. So essentially what that means is currently you can take a pre-existing model, something like Llama 2, which is Meta's open source large language model, and you can embed data into it. So for example, you could scrape and download your entire website's content, embed that into your model, and you would now have a model that is pre-trained on your website's content and thus can create stylized and templated content specifically similarly or within reason similarly to your content. And finally, he went through loads of very, very high level AI tips that I'm not going to be able to share with you in this video because number one, I don't want to be revealing his secrets, and number two, a lot of them are going to go over a lot of people's heads anyway. The next person was Kanh. Now, Chi went into a lot of detail around being an affiliate and how you can maximize your affiliate business. The first thing she talked about was you're focusing on evergreen niches. This basically means that a lot of affiliates tend to jump on trends or hype trains. They scale very, very fast and then they descale very, very quickly because they're 99% rise and then 99% drop off happens. And that unfortunately means that a lot of affiliate careers are short-lived because they don't have this evergreen and longevity-based mindset that can lead to offers generating them millions of dollars for years to come rather than in a very short amount of time. Also, that short amount of time frame can screw a lot of people over because it can very quickly jump them into new tax brackets and things in their specific country, which can then lead them to having far larger tax bills than they're used to having, and that can mess with their expenditure. People are not about it tracking their finances. All sorts of things happen. It's better to focus on evergreen niches. Next up, she's talking about how you can maximize your commissions, speaking to people, building relationships, shopping around different offers, comparing different offers, telling other offers that you're considering this other offer that they've given you an exclusivity agreement on so that you can get higher levels out of people. All sorts of things that you should be focusing on that you would be doing as a normal business, you should be doing as an affiliate. And then finally, she talked about doing due diligence and research into the programs and offers that you're actually promoting, because too many affiliates get burned by the various offers and companies and networks that they promote that end up just going out of business or essentially exit scamming a lot of the affiliates that they have brought under their banner over the various years. Next up was one of two sponsored talks. Now, I only got to see this sponsored talk, and it was by Tim Soulo. I really wanted to see it because I heard that there was going to be some controversy in it, and boy, oh boy, was there some controversy. Now, the very first thing that he did was open up the stage by saying that it's going to cost us some credits to listen to his talk, which in the room, it was a lot funnier than some of the people who were sharing it on Twitter and arguing about how he was kind of taking the piss out of their customers. Don't worry, he kind of was, but he was doing it in a very light-hearted and funny way. And I thought it was actually delivered in a pretty heartfelt and meaningful way. He then kind of talked about the reasoning behind the search engine that Ahrefs bought. One of the things that I thought that Ahrefs did a very bad job on was actually the reasoning of why they had been investing this, $50-60 million into their search engine. I think it's far beyond that now in the first place. And essentially that a lot of it was actually that they can use a lot of the data and the scraping and this new ability from the search engine back into Ahrefs. And it does sort of make sense. Yes, would I be more happy if they just spent that $60 million on the tool in the first place? Probably. However, I'm pretty happy that they're at least thinking and implementing a lot of the stuff that they're getting out of this search engine into Ahrefs. And it allows them to have a different set of bots, which means that a lot of the blocking of Ahrefs bot is kind of thrown out the window unless you go and update that those bots been blocking to also block Yetbot as well. He also then delivered a ton of new features that had either already been released or are going to soon come out for Ahrefs, and gave some really big reasons why some of the legacy users should now upgrade to the new accounts, because you are getting a lot of value out of these new features as well. Now, next up to talk was Kevin Indig. I only got a little bit of his presentation, so I asked a couple of other people to fill in some of the gaps, so I hope I got all of this right. However, again, his presentation, a lot of this presentations in the conference was talking about how essentially AI is the future. He was talking about how AI is the future, even in enterprise SEO. A lot of the higher end of the market, a lot of the enterprise people don't want to incorporate it, don't want to use it, don't want to even talk about it, but it is the future and it's going to be taking over their markets especially. He's also talking about how we want to be spending a lot of time developing your prompts. He's spent countless hours on an individual prompt to fine-tune what it is saying so that it will get the best possible output for the task that he is trying to be building, and you should all be doing the same. He then gave some examples of some of those best prompts that he had come up with and why he thinks they are the best prompts. I'm not going to be sharing them here. If he wants to share them, he's going to publish them by his own accord. Go ahead and follow him. He's then also talking about how you should be testing the different model outputs depending on your prompt. So don't just put it into ChatGPT and see what it says. Put it into Claude, put it into Bard, put it into all these other different AI chatbots and tools, and then see what their output is, see which one has the best possible output for the different scenario and prompt that you are using. Next up, we had Mr. Kris Holten. Now, I can't really talk about Kris's presentation because of what was inside of it. It was super black hat, and thus I'm not going to be talking about it in this specific video, as he didn't want anybody recording it, even taking presentations of what was involved. Next up, we had Dom Wells. Now, Dom's a really interesting guy. So anybody who remembers me running DFY links, I sold it to Gary Wilson, who then sold it to Dom Wells, who then IPO'd on the NASDAQ with Get Me Links as part of the portfolio that is Onfolio. So Dom is the CEO and founder of Onfolio, which is now a NASDAQ leading investment company that mostly invests in digital assets and SEO related companies. So specifically in his presentation, I thought it was very interesting to see a traditional investment-based mindset coming into the game. He's essentially saying, do not buy any content sites. The game is too risky. AI is making so many advancements. Google's messing everything up, and SG will change the game. So he is not buying content sites. Instead, he's mostly buying agencies. So he's buying service-based agencies and heavy cash flow-based businesses, most of those being service-related, industry-related businesses. So things like link building services, content services, any agencies that run specifically in any industries like healthcare, lawyers, and things like that. And then finally, he was talking about not using your own capital and cash flow, because there are plenty of investment opportunities and investors out there that are looking for opportunities. All you need to do is have a convincing enough offer to convince them to actually invest in yours. Next up, we had Bibi Raven, aka Bibi Buzz. Now, Bibi is a very white hat traditional link builder who has built a insane number of very high end, very high quality links over the years using a variety of methods. Nowadays, she mostly runs an agency that is focused on building high quality, high authority links for free via guest posting and link bait. So her presentation was very colourful to say the least. She started off by talking about how you need to simplify your tool stack. She literally just uses 3 or 4 tools to get the entire job done. And then she started talking about how she uses everything generally within the same tool suite, which is Pitchbox, from scraping to delivering emails to confirming and publishing the content. It's all done within Pitchbox. And then she just uses a couple other tools like Google Sheets and Ahrefs for some metrics and some research. Then she talks about building your ideal targets list. So trying to find targets that your competitors have, trying to find ideal targets that you're trying to get links from that are within Google's link graph, and then building link bait pieces to attract those links, and building links at those link bait pieces to try and attract more links to them. The entire premise is that if you can build link bait, that you want to try and rank that link bait so that it's more likely to get links in the first place. And to rank it, you're probably going to need some links to rank the link bait. So you're going to be wanting to build some links to that. So a lot of the time, most people are just building link bait to naturally acquire links. Bibi goes down the method of trying to create link bait and then actively trying to create links to that link bait via outreach as well. And then finally, she started talking about customizing your outreach templates, stop talking corporate speak, and trying to humanize and personalize the person that you are trying to outreach to at the end of that email. And next up, we have Steve Toth, Mr. SEO Notebook himself. Now, I'm not going to be able to reveal much of what Steve said because he gave so many specific tips, experiments, sheets, tools, even his new G-score summarization experiments away, that you had to literally be there to get most of the information and be there to get the downloadables. I'm sure that he'll be releasing it in his SEO Notebook very soon. So just go to seonotebook.com, sign up for his email list, and make sure that you are there to get access to all of the stuff that I'm sure that he'll slowly be releasing from the conference over the next couple of weeks and months. Now, Craig Campbell's presentation was on Black Hat SEO, and it was definitely the funniest presentation of the entire conference. In fact, in my opinion, he was way funnier than the MC, who was apparently a comedian himself. Craig really brought that Scottish and Glaswegian humour that delivered massively for the event. He gave a lot of examples of Black Hat tricks that were still working. He talked about old school Black Hat tactics that never died, and he talked about plenty of domain name tricks as well. One of the tips that I want to talk to you about was how he got his knowledge graph and his knowledge panel in the right side for his name. If you go ahead and Google Craig Campbell or Craig Campbell SEO, you'll see that he comes up in that right side. Effectively, Craig became an actor for a time being so that he could get that knowledge panel on the right side, and he ended up getting an IMDb profile and all sorts of accreditations in various movie and TV series, which led to a hilarious story about him actually achieving that. But I thought it was a great example of using some additional creativity in a more black or grey hat world to achieve the end result that he wanted to. And I'm sure you could effectively sell that to clients for $10,000 or $20,000 as a service that only took him a few hours and a couple £100. The closing presentation of the conference was by Cyrus, Shepard, who's the former head of SEO for Moz and one of the most well-respected people in the white hat industry. However, he opened up very, very fast by saying that actually he's not really a white hat and he does not class himself as a white hat, and that actually none of the Google crowd speak to him anymore after he talked about Google's recent antitrust and anti-competitive lawsuits and behavior in general. He used to be very good friends with the people at Google, and literally none of them talk to him anymore because of his outspoken nature about the company. I don't blame him. I think that the Google engineers are way too purist and elitist about a company that has obvious ethical and moral implications and concerns that have been exposed by the US government in recent years and months. So, Cyrus essentially became a quality rater. So everybody's probably heard of the quality rater guidelines by now in SEO. Cyrus signed up to be one. It doesn't pay very well, but he spent a lot of time going through the training and actively being a quality rater to seeing what it says. Now, he can't share a lot of information. However, what he did share is that when you get to rate these specific sites, it's not just a very simple 1 to 10 rating. There is a whole matrix matrix of what is actually reviewed and what Google wants you to look at, from the trustworthiness to the helpfulness to the quality of the content to the relevancy of the content to all sorts of additional facts about the domain, and it is site-wide. They're not generally reviewing pages, they're reviewing how good sites are, and they're marking specific pages based on those scores, but in general it is a site-wide application, and it is training Google's machine learning algorithms so that they can effectively rate it as a quality rater would have. Obviously, there's going to be some exceptions and some outliers in terms of how a machine learning algorithm would actually rate it. And with advancements in technology, I'm not sure how well that data will prove to be in the coming years and months. But currently, a lot of it is based on literally quality raters, people at home who are just as clever as you and I. They're not cheap VAs who are underpaid and essentially, slave labor. And you have to be doing it consistently. There is a minimum 15 minutes per week of work, or you get banned from being a quality rater and your work contract is revoked. And then finally, we had all of the amazing community and side events and meetups, as well as the closing party from Ahrefs. Everybody at the conference was super friendly. Everyone I spoke to had a great time. Everyone learned a lot, and everyone had a lot to implement into their own projects, businesses, or potentially new opportunities and new JVs with the people there. I want to give a big shout out to all the speakers. I want to give a big shout out to everybody that organised events, including Jonathan Keatbush and James Oliver for organising some spectacular ones. I want to give a big shout out to all the sponsors who didn't go above and beyond in terms of pitching and delivered a really authentic experience. And Ahrefs could have given us a free bar, but they're too cheap with the credits. And that's it. Thank you for watching. I've been Charles Floate. You can follow me on Twitter at Charles_SEO. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, just my name, Charles Floate. You can get all of my free and premium SEO training at charlesfloatetraining.com. And don't forget to like, subscribe, tick that notification bell for every video that I upload, and make sure to comment if you have any questions about the conference or the speakers or any videos you would like to see next.